And we are live.
Oh, wow. Look at that, everyone. I have made it again to do a podcast, I suppose. And just like last time, I am in not the best conditions. I was drinking all last night. If I take my jacket off, you can see whiskey stains on my back from the alcohol trying to escape my body. So that's my life, but we got here. This hot take with Fletcher Kade. That's me. You probably know me. If you don't, ask a friend. Anyways, and you are.
Yang.
That was solid. Okay, so we're both comics. That's the thing. Today we're going to review AMER's special on Netflix. I don't know. I guess we'll get into my thoughts about it. But so how this goes, I'm going to give Yang 5 uninterrupted minutes to speak, go through everything you thought, and let's just really dissect this. And yeah, I mean, go for it. You can.
Okay.
I don't care if you thought jokes were bad or if you just didn't like the lighting.
Okay.
Let's get into it. But hold on, let me.
I feel so shitty because the things that I'm gonna comment on are like things that like I feel like women in comedy are like, oh my god, like that shouldn't care. So I'm basically doing like the opposite, like as is like a misandrist. Like I was being kind of like just like objectively, I was just like, what is he wearing? Like, why the fuck did I say that? Like,
No,
first,
you're allowed to say that because I have some comments. But hold on, let me put the clock on for you, and you're on.
okay, so, from which I was like, okay, he is wearing a very LA hip outfit that I've seen, which is like the long tee, but then you have like the Gucci print on the bottom, and then it's like it's supposed to look like a camisole underneath, and then he's wearing Yeezys, I think. I can't tell.
There's some nice ass shit.
Yeah, they were really nice, and I mean, it was fine or whatever, but then, and he was wearing like a jacket, and I didn't care until, and this is like, again, I'm so fucking shitty for like noticing this, but like he was sweating his whole set, and I was like, damn, like maybe we're a tank top. Just like, I was like, you're wearing a sweater, and like you're wearing a lot of garments, and and I'm sorry not to be like, oh, it's distracting from your comedy. I can't even notice what you're saying because of what you look like. I know I sound like one of those guys, but I am. And but that was one of those things that I was noticing. And then lots of accents in place of punchlines. I feel so bad, but like that is how I truly feel. And I kept doing that stupid audience thing. Like I had never listened to comedy before, where I'd look over at my boyfriend and I was like, wait, did I miss the punchline? He's like, no, that was the punchline. And I was just like, okay. And I feel, but I'm stupid. Like I'm very stupid. So like, I don't know. This is a stupid person's perspective, but I did like his story. His storytelling was like on beat, like, on point. And I did see some of like, so I had first seen AMER on the Colbert Show, the late show with Stephen Colbert, and he did his set that he did there on the Netflix special, and I would say that was his top-notch stuff, because like that was like at the beginning where he talks about his name Mohammed, but again, like I think that he did a lot of different accents, which I feel like is interesting because like I don't think it was that offensive. Like I feel like there's like a card, right? Like you're like, you have your minority card, so you can literally like do accents of everybody and not like come off offensive. I think somebody tell me if that's correct. So I don't know. Like I'm just like wondering if like that's, but then because he talked about growing up, and then he said that he like grew up in America as like somebody who he's like, also his story is so crazy. Like I think he's been a what's it called? A refugee from 2 different places. Is that right? That's mind blowing. So like, props to him to get to as far as he's gotten, because like, and there was like, okay, I'm hopping around all over, but like when he like looked over at his mom, I did almost cry. I was just like, that is super sweet, but also tells a lot of why he's not saying any dick jokes. Like, I was like, okay, because I was like, his stuff is like primarily just about being immigrating over here, and I was like wondering, I was like, is he gonna talk about like dating and like, you know, all this stuff, and also they like cut to the audience not laughing. I've seen that in a lot of specials where I'm like, who's cutting to women, like just people like smiling. I was like, oh, that sucks. And also there was like a lot more like applause breaks than like laugh breaks, which I was like, I guess that's a reaction that I would want too. But I don't know. I have a lot of mixed emotions about the whole thing, because I was like, was it entertaining? Yes. Is he a good storyteller? Yes. Do I think there was like really like top-notch comedy in there? And but yeah, I think he's funny. I think he's like really likable, has a good stage presence. When he does like his Latino voice, it's pretty funny. Like, I would say it's so funny because all of his accents do have like a Middle Eastern flair on the end of it, so it's like, so it's interesting. I don't know. I would like, do we have to, if I were to grade it for somebody else to watch, I honestly, like in things like this, I would just recommend other white people to watch it. So I'm like, look at and learn from this experience. That's what I would say. I'm like, please watch more comedy where, like, you know, it's a different voice. That's what I decided.
All right.
Time?
Yeah, right on time. Okay, so yeah, I'll start this for me, but oh wow, like we said a lot of the same things. I have this like right in my original notes, like it's crazy. But let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, I've already messed this up, but we'll get
I'm
back.
just glad that I'm not the only asshole who like thought of all those things.
Oh no, yeah, because I thought his outfit was fine until I saw that like he was sweating so much.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, I don't know why like bigger people do this shit to themselves on stage, you know, because like it just and just from like having a film background and then having worked in sound a little bit, like a lot of the times like you know, they don't like to have the air on to affect the sound. But what happens a lot just to do stupid shots is people will have, like, you know, the hair fan just to blow people's hair and stuff. And they can put those on a setting and get the proper fan so that it's not fucking up your sound. And then on a special, like what Mo's doing, or any special, you are pretty much using like a condenser shotgun microphone that's only getting sound that comes directly into the mic. And the audience is separately mic'd too. So if you wanted a fucking fan directly off screen in front of your face, you could do that. You know?
That's so cool. I didn't know that, and that is amazing. 1, 2, yeah, like you would think for a special for Netflix they could have the budget.
Yeah, I would have them, because it wouldn't even be an extra thing. You literally just talk to a grip on set to rig that shit for you, and they will make it happen, because there's no reason for you to just be pouring sweat on like one of the biggest things in your career.
Right.
You know, and then you have to like step on jokes to dab your forehead.
Yeah. That was like the biggest thing too, where I was just like, you should just keep the cloth like in your hand on your forehead the whole time, because
absolutely, it's just too much. It's too much. Like, you can't be sweating that much. So no, yeah, that's something I absolutely would have taken. Like, I would have. You got to figure out a way to stop sweating. It takes too much away from your material. But then, like what you were saying with the jokes and stuff, I thought that was really funny, because I think I haven't heard too many stories like Mo's.
Right.
So I was really captured just by the story. And I guess at the comic I was thinking about the jokes and stuff, but you do kind of Yeah, because I mean, like in comedy, like if you can't be funny, be interesting, you know, and that's kind of what he was taking it there, because he is very entertaining, and I do think he's funny and he has jokes, but it really kind of just grabs you with this amazing, almost like Indiana Jones type adventure story.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, so like I really, really enjoyed that. I do think he does have some solid jokes, but after you said that, I was like, okay, I totally see what you're saying with the accents and stuff. Because, yeah, there's one joke about just Muhammad being the most popular name in the world. And, yeah, his punchline is really just like, Muhammad passes the ball to Muhammad. You know, and there's no joke. It's just him saying Muhammad a lot.
Right.
And as for like the accents and stuff, yeah, I didn't find anything where I was like, oh, I think he's being offensive toward people. And it was like he really was just doing accents. He wasn't putting on an accent and then being like, and here's some racist stuff to say.
Right.
But it kind of reminded me of like the first time I saw Russell Peters stuff, because Russell Peters also kind of captured me just by being interesting, because he like, just where he lived, he was exposed to types of people that I wasn't. So even when he's talking about like race and like even making fun of different races and stuff, he's making fun of races that I've never even heard stereotypes about before.
Yeah.
You know,
I love Russell Peters.
No, yeah, so I can dive into that like really easily. But yeah, with Mo, I definitely like the sweating. Like you really can't do like. Yeah, like my whole 5 is just gonna be about him sweating, because like it really takes that much away. And then on top of that, it wasn't just like I'm a big dude, I'm sweating. It's like you're wearing 5 layers. Like, you know, like you can take one off.
Agree.
And especially you're doing a Netflix special, like hair and makeup will hook it up. They can put all kinds of pads and stuff under your arms to make sure you look perfect. And then with the cutting away to like the audience not laughing and stuff, I don't know, he might have actually just got a bad run for his special, because what happens with a lot of specials is that, you know, they want it to be like people belly laughing, falling out their fucking seats for every joke. So what will happen is when you get your special, you might actually go out and have like 3 days where you're shooting your special, and you do 3 hours back to back with a different crowd. And they'll cut in between that, so it's the best reaction for each joke. But if all of your shit went bad, like they don't have anything to use.
Oh, somebody did, I just learned that about the, like, when you have a special, like, they cut.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I was like, oh, that sounds terrible. That sounds fucking terrible. And to have to reset and maybe retell your joke.
No, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but it's also, oh, and that's my 5, but let's just dive into this conversation. Yeah. So, I think it sucks, but it can also be good for you as a comic sometimes, because it really can just be an off night or an off kind of thing, and you don't want people to necessarily judge you on that when they're seeing your special. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like if you're filming your special and people came there to laugh, if you can't get that joke right, like in 3 turns, like you probably need to cut that from your special.
Right. I feel like it's weird, like with these special things too, because like I just learned that Joe Coy, he paid to do his whole like special, and then sold it to Netflix, because he was like, if they're not gonna come for me, like I'm gonna present it to them, kind of thing. And I do wonder more and more about like the behind the scenes of like how does one get a special? How does one, you know, like,
he lucked out. Yeah, Joe Coy lucked out because he already kind of had a name behind him.
Right.
And he actually, when you do that, you actually end up making more money if you sell it to Netflix yourself instead of them asking you to do something.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and you can sell it to them for way more than they would have paid you, but also you can do this, you can pretty much lease the special to Netflix. So he could be like, okay, Netflix gets this for a year, and then I'm going over to HBO, pretty much getting another payday, you know, take it over to Showtime.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, yeah, so that's why a lot of people will produce their own, just because nobody's coming to them, but also if they do get the money together, do it themselves, they're going to make way more.
Okay, so I guess we'll do it at the 4th wall. And then we'll sell sell out the venue. I think is it like 13, 14, 16, 16 people can fit in here? Is that the max occupancy?
Yo, it's gonna be standing room only. We're gonna.
Yeah. And then I'll sell it to Netflix. It's great.
No, that's why, like, with the, I don't know if you saw Chelsea Peretti's last special, where, and then Joe Mandy does the same thing, where she's, like, doing a joke or whatever, and then I'll cut to, like, a dog in the audience, or, yeah, and then I'll cut to somebody, like, cutting their nails or something.
Sorry. I know that we're talking about Mo, but like, can we also just talk about how Chelsea Peretti's not on the scene, and it makes me so sad because I love watching her.
I love watching her. Like, she's so funny, but I totally understand because, like, once you're, like, working a show like that, it's so hard to do comedy too.
Yeah, but I heard she's not doing 9-9 as much because
Oh, she just had a baby.
Right. And then somebody, like, I think a year ago or 2 years ago, talked about how she was at the Comedy Store and I was like, God damn, like, I would have paid a lot of money to just even see her, just because we need her to do a special. But back to Mo, great special. Really, really appreciate your experience in listening to it.
No, yeah, like, especially now that I'm, like, sitting here and talking about it, I'm like, no, yeah, like, I actually really enjoyed Mo's special, but it is kind of forgettable. Like, like,
as we've talked about, like, 4 other comedians that we've enjoyed.
No, yeah, like, he has a great story, and it definitely teaches you about what a person goes through trying to just live here. But as far as, like, joke writing, he's not a joke writer. Like,
right.
He's very entertaining and he's got some funny stuff, but he doesn't hit you with the smart punchlines.
Yeah, and it was weird because, like, when he told that story about his mom, I was, like, really captivated. But then, yeah, I was just like, oh, like, I wonder what his joke is. There was no joke. His line for, like, a quote-unquote punchline was, my mom's a gangster.
No, yeah.
My mom's a gangster. And I was like, that's not a punchline. But
like, yeah, like, it's sweet, but this, yeah, cause there's a lot of stuff on Netflix sometimes, or yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'll find on Netflix where it's like a comedy special where I'm just like, this is like more of a one-man show. Like, you shouldn't even necessarily be calling this comedy. Like, yes, the person has a microphone and they're on the stage talking to an audience, but this is not like stand-up.
right.
And I don't know, there's a lot more of that kind of stuff, and I don't mind it, but it makes a lot more sense when, like, you know it's Tony Robbins, you know, instead
right. I think it's weird, too, because I feel like I've taken, like, comedy classes before. I know, how shameful. But, Travis, fuck you. And, like, I can't anymore because I'm like, it's like one of those things where I don't like it when people are like, yeah, like, tell us more about that. Like, tell us, like, from beginning, middle, and end, and like what actually happened. And I was like, I'm not here to try to tell you a story. Like, I'm here to try to, like, make a joke out of an experience.
No, yeah. I've definitely noticed that kind of divide between the comics. There's people who are like, I want to talk about this, and it matters that, you learn these 20 things in the process of me giving this speech. And then there's the comics that are like, I kind of want to touch on this, but I'm really going after the joke.
Right.
You know, and they don't care if you learn about feminism during it. They just care that they wrote a joke on feminism.
Right. That's true. I feel like that is, like, one of those things. And I feel like it's like a hard thing too. I feel like to, like, make sure that you get a message, make it funny. But, like, that's money. That's, like, the goal, to, like, kind of have a message, kind of like have make it funny. And also I wanted to mention is that, like, with Mo, I get what he was doing too. And my boyfriend mentions this about comic books and, like, comic book movies, and I started realizing it's, like, kind of the same thing with stand-up specials, whereas, like, every first like, if they're like, oh, it's a Spider-Man, it's always an origin story. And it's like, for comedy, it's the same thing. Like, Mo is trying to get his origin story out there, but I'm kind of and I'm like, you don't have to start there. You can start with, like, whatever you're doing right now. I don't know, because it's probably more relevant.
No, yeah, I feel like that sometimes, even doing, like, 5-minute sets. Like sometimes I'll just be
Right.
like, okay, I guess I won't do my like let me just tell a joke. And sometimes like I don't know, I've definitely noticed situations with your special you definitely want to introduce yourself, but I don't think that necessarily has to be the entirety of your special.
Right. I feel the same way. And I think it's kind of like, and I'm trying to get away from it too, but it is like one of those things where somebody else, like another lady in comedy who is also a minority, was like, yeah, I feel like they do stuff to like, we all see that I'm not white, so let me do a couple material about how I'm not white or a dude so that we all can like ease that I'm aware about that. And then I'll go into like shit that I care about. But I'm like, sometimes I wish I can just like not do that, the first beginning part of like, yeah, but I don't know. Do you feel that way too?
Oh,
Or-
I feel like that. So yeah, there's so many times where I will like on purpose walk in and be like, I'm not doing my non-binary stuff. I'm not doing the
Right.
autism material. Like I just can't. Like I can't do it. And then there's sometimes where like not like sometimes like those jokes will hit so fucking hard that I'm like, do people actually like my other like
Yeah.
like are these just like the two jokes that I worked out and like I don't have anything else, or I get like I'm like, oh, are they just laughing on some like Aziz shit where he just talks for applause and people just want to fucking clap for me?
Right. It is weird. Like I sometimes it's so like I only got to experience it like I think a weekend ago where I actually got to perform like 4 times in a row. And I was like, this will be perfect. I'll record it and I'll figure it out. And like for many different audiences. And it was interesting to be like, shit, you guys laughed at the wrong part of that joke and a little too hard. Like makes me like, you know, and then you're just like, be okay with it. Walk away. Like, no, let's like not. And then I did a show that was an all Asian cast.
Oh, sweet.
And so I was like, then I was like confused. I was just like, fuck. I was like, do I do more Asian material? Do I do less Asian material? Like what? Like, is it like, and then I like did it and it was one of those things where like I have a joke about like the punchline and something with Mulan. And like most non-Asian audiences were like, you know, what is on the ground? They're like, that's so fucking hilarious. She's fucking Asian and Mulan, my mind is so fucking blown. And then I said it in front of them and they were just like, yeah, that's too. Like, fucking, what else you got? You gonna make a dog eating joke? All of us have dog eating jokes, okay? And I'm like, damn, fuck, I have to rewrite within like minutes right now. But
oh fuck no, that
Yeah.
happens to like I have not had the pleasure of doing like a black show yet, but anytime I do like a queer show, like my queer, like none of my queer material really hits, and they just kind of look at me weird and they're like, oh, are you gonna say faggot again? And I'm like, yep, a couple more times.
oh man, it's like, yeah, because they're probably like, we all say it, we're all allowed to say it, kind of like.
No,
yeah.
Yeah, because before you even know if I'm a good person, I've said 5 slurs, like in my like in my opening joke, and I'm just like, I know how that feels, but just let me finish it, and we'll decide if you like me afterward.
Right.
But even sometimes when they like are kind of down for it, yeah, it doesn't hit as hard until I truly get to the end and they unclench their assholes and they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, God,
Right.
fuck you guys. Because if I'm in front of like a mixed crowd or like mostly straight, that shit will kill. Like they are totally open and receptive.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what it is about being in front of your own people. Like they are just judging you so hard and they're so ready for somebody to fuck up.
Right. It is like one of those things where I like go back and forth of like, sometimes like maybe I need like more of a liberal hipster crowd. And then sometimes they won't think it's funny because they're like, you're like, oh, you just made a rape joke. And I'm like, I'm on the right side of the rape joke. Like, so.
I fucking hate that. I fucking hate
Yeah.
crowds that are too liberal to enjoy satire.
Right. And and that's the thing where it's like, you kind of have to like, yeah, so I feel like it's one of those things where you're like, I'm getting judged by somebody, like, I probably have the same political views.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, and then you're like, I don't know about my shit. And that's something I noticed about his special was that, like, I think he had, like, a fairly, like, Middle Eastern crowd or, like, Persian or, crowd. Like, I don't know. I'm like so tiptoeing because I'm like, don't even know the right, you know, whoops. But yeah, so I was like wondering about that too, because like even Ali Wong's special, she had a very Asian crowd.
Netflix is definitely doing that on purpose.
Yeah, but I'm like, those are my people. I did not grow up with a bunch of Asian people, so. But I also am surprised like how many Asians came to watch Ali Wong, because she is so crass in a way that like I don't know any Asian person that likes that. So I'm surprised. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I liked. Yeah, I think that's Netflix really just trying to, I guess, help make it look, real, I suppose. But I don't think that they realize, just on a comedy point, that that can actually, yeah, like we were saying, like that can be bad. Like, I would kind of, yeah, if I got my first special and I'd still never done a black show before and I showed up to Netflix and they had an all black crowd, I wouldn't want to do the fucking special.
Right.
Like, I'd be like, let's not do this the first time. Like, let's do a practice run and see how my material goes before you just throw this shit at me.
That's interesting. So you haven't performed for like an all black audience either?
No.
Okay.
No, yeah, because I have not. I just don't even know. The only person that even told me about a black show was this white girl who talked me up for an hour after an open mic and then fake added me on Facebook. And I was like, you're the one that was bothering me for an hour.
Oh, my God.
But apparently there's something at the Comedy Store that I want to check out, but also, I don't know, I think it would be interesting. I think, I actually think black people respond to my material very well, but I've never been able to see it on a like bigger scale.
I feel like I'm trying to think of like the audience. It's so hard to. So I finally did an all Asian crowd, did an all white male crowd, not too long ago here. It's not even a crowd. It's just an open mic, and.
I do really well with all straight white guys.
I can see that. I feel like sometimes I do that. We're like, Travis, chime in. Give us validation. What do you think? Because yeah, I feel like that too. Which again, I'm like, God, you guys aren't the people. Well, you guys are laughing, so it's fine. It's also one thing. Like, I went to a comedy show yesterday to stalk a comedian that I want on our show, and I was just talking to him about like, you know, the audience and the crowd and whatever. And it was so funny because I was like, yeah, I just learned that there's like bad audiences. And he was just like, yeah, like, you know, I was like, for the longest time, I just was like, you know what, like comedians like blame audiences for not laughing at their jokes. But like, honestly, like a good comedian wouldn't do that. You know, like a good comedian would be like, it doesn't matter who the audience is, I can make them laugh. And then
I just spit on them.
Yeah. But then I realized like different audiences like respond differently. But then the professional comedian was like, oh no, I wasn't talking about them laughing. I was saying how rude they were while they're talking. I believe that like you should be able to make every audience laugh. And I was like, God, I'm such a loser. I was like, please do my show. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I got a few last comments and we can wrap this up. Yeah, well, just on like the bad audience thing. Oh God, do I have something on my mouth? Okay, but yeah, for the bad audience thing, I absolutely, yeah, I do believe that as a good like a very very solid comic can walk into almost any room and turn it around.
Okay.
But there is, I mean, but that's, I don't know, that really, like, you have to have be like, everything has to kind of click the right way. Like, you have to already be having like a great fucking day. Your energy needs to be there. You need to be reading the crowd the entire time, knowing what they're not laughing at, knowing what's gonna bring it around once you get up there and start your first sentence. And sometimes it's just so hard to have all that together. And like, I've done it maybe 3 times since I've started comedy where everybody in the room bombed super hard and I went up there and got laughs. but I was never prepared for it. Like,
Right.
it was always a surprise that I got, but actually, I guess going back to that special we watched all those years ago, Mo AMER, he tells a story about that when he was at, he did a show for the troops. And,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically the story of how he walks out there, like the two comics before him absolutely ate it. Nobody's laughing, and they're great comics, so he was kind of terrified. Goes up there and starts the set, and one of the guys pulls an M16 on him.
Oh yeah, he says this in the okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then he gets up there, and he pretty much, I won't do his joke,
Right.
but he pretty much like starts kind of managing the situation just using humor, and is able to
Right.
kind of bring things down, and then ended up having a great set. And that's the kind of thing, like, even when he said it, as somebody who's like a headliner and stuff, he was not expecting to do well. It just kind of all comes together sometimes that you get to look like the cool kid. that
I know, right? You're just like, this is not by any, like, it's just by chance sometimes.
Because I think
Yeah.
because there's always going to be people that are funnier than others or have a particular sense of humor. But I think once you hit a certain point in comedy, we're all putting a certain amount of work in. We're all funny at a certain level. So it really does become chance and tiny tweaks here and there.
I think so too. I mean, I feel like most definitely, obviously, like working at it is like something that I just learned. Again, I was just talking to my friend when I first started comedy. I was just like, well, I guess I don't really need to like work that hard, have my own show or whatever, because like if I'm talented enough, like this is what's gonna happen, and if I'm not, then I just know to leave because I'm not that dense. And I'm like, oh, a lot of this is just luck too. But like obviously working at it, I feel like and consistently, I'm like, okay, there's obviously like a payout to all of this. I've seen like unfunny people truly just like blossom into like some of the best comedians. So
oh yeah, like it makes me so happy when I see somebody like something that's been bombing for 5 months turn around and that bit becomes hilarious,
right,
or just they become funny.
right.
But on the other hand of that, it is also like heartbreaking to watch somebody just for so long and like they just never start, like they just don't get any better, and you're like, can you hear yourself when you speak?
Right. Oh God. So many open mics, just so many.
But I will say, like, having started comedy, ever since I started comedy, my favorite comics are open micers, like straight up.
I feel that too. I really do. And it's shitty because like, okay, like for example, I had this one girl come in to my open mic and she was like, I haven't done this in a while. I was like, I know what kind of open mic person she is. She's probably somebody who like wants to continue to do comedy, but she like kind of rests on her laurels a lot. She's probably not going to do comedy because of how little or infrequently she does it.
Yeah.
But she went up hilarious. She was so funny. And I was just like, and that's funny. Nobody's going to ever know she ever existed because she's like an open mic comic who comes in here once in a while, says she like dabbles in comedy, but I don't think she's ever going to commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
Super hilarious though. So I'm like, yeah, we get to see like gems of people that like nobody will ever know they existed.
And I think that's so great because you really get to hear from so many different perspectives of people, even shitty, awful people. You're just like, oh, okay, so that's what they think of things.
Right. I'm sorry I'm like mentioning so many things, but like that's why I will say like I like didn't know what Kill Tony was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like wondering why it had such a following. I started listening to it and I was like, this is fucking great because it does give the audience like the whole like whoever listens to it to kind of like see in what like an open mic really is like.
Yeah.
And how funny people can be out of nowhere.
No, yeah, I absolutely love it. Let's see. Do I have any last thoughts? Mo.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I guess my biggest... Let's see. Okay, yeah. Out of 10 stars, what would you rate this special? I think I would give it a 6. I'll give it a 7 just because I genuinely learned stuff about the refugee process that I honestly would not have looked into myself if I wasn't watching comedy.
Okay. I was gonna say 7 too, but I'm gonna go with 6 because I'll take the blow for it. But I feel so because I think like, and it's also because like there's so much comedy, and I feel like a 6 is not bad and like a 7 is not bad. So I'm just like, there are so many amazing comedians and there's so many amazing specials, and he's on the list of like a person who has a special who his special was great. But yeah, I'm not like I'd want people to watch it to learn something, but maybe not to laugh.
No, because just with open micers, I know absolutely. If I'm comparing this to literally people that I can see at fourth wall, then I mean, he's definitely got some fucking competition.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's so mind-boggling.
And some people like to think that like just because you put like your story has like the beginning, middle, and end, they're just like, oh well, that was put together nicely. Like that's a great writer and stuff. Like, and we can all do that. Like we
right. That's why I get slightly frustrated with the whole like storytelling thing, because like I tell stories too, but like I feel like it's like, I don't know, it's not comedy, so like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel weird about it.
Yeah, and there is a way to tell stories with punchlines, but sometimes you have to start manipulating things to really just benefit the joke instead of telling the real story.
Right. I know that like on Netflix they have a storytelling show. Have you seen it?
Oh, no.
It's like a storytelling thing. Like it's like a special, and people just tell stories out of like their diaries and stuff. And I was like, that's great. Let's call it that. Let's make sure to call it that, because it's already such a like congested form that I'm just like, let's separate into 2 different things so we don't like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too nitpicky about it, but Mo, I'm giving you a 6, which is really, really good in the standards of like how many specials there are. So
no, yeah, I mean, because I'm including specials and just people I know, because I don't know, I really wanted to go with 6 too, but I will give it to him that I learned something, because I have seen worse on Netflix. I've seen some bad stuff on Netflix, but yeah, I mean, I seriously just go to an open mic. Like, you might have to sit through the worst stuff you ever heard in your life, but you had a new experience.
it's true. It's true.
All right, so that's our rating. I've been talking for a long ass time.
So have I.
I'm Fletcher. This is
Yang.
And we have completed this, and I am still sweating out whiskey. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.